may introduce.
Okay, I'm gonna click go live then.
Okay.
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 I think we're about live.
Does seem like it.
Okay. Let me just move this over. Okay, I'm good on my end. Are you live?
I am live at 5.
There's a local news show called Live at 5. We call it Lies at 5 because it's just feel good stories and no substance.
Wow. Speaking of feel good stories with no, that's not this episode.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tapcaf Transmissions, the only Star Wars podcast talking about this show. I'm almost certain that's true. Today, we are talking not only the season finale of The Bad Batch, but the entire season 1, with season 2 coming next year, thankfully. So, something to look forward to with this podcast and just your regular Star Wars TV show. So, how are you doing, Corey? You having a good day?
I'm doing well, and I can see you're doing well too, because it sounds like you have your biggest fan with you in the office, unfortunately. So
Can you actually hear it now?
yeah. So probably coming through a lot more on your stream.
Okay. Oh, I turned it off. Let me re-record the intro then.
Okay. Sorry to do that to you.
That's okay. That's okay.
I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to.
It's the fans' fault, not yours.
And Corey, do be quiet, apparently. So
Really?
you might need to turn me up a little bit.
Okay.
Just
take a
little bit.
second and turn you up. Okay. You want to say something now?
I can say stuff now. Yeah.
Oh wait, hold on. I know. Okay, say something now.
I'm gonna say stuff now.
Okay, that's better. Is that better, guys? Chat. Does that sound better? Corey is very quiet.
Quiet. Yes.
Okay. All right. I had to get that burp out of here. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tapcaf Transmissions, the only Star Wars podcast. And today we are talking The Bad Batch. We just had episode 16 of The Bad Batch. So today we'll be talking not only about the season finale, but the entire season as a whole. Very excited. We've got a nice, quiet recording studio for today for both of us. How are you doing, Corey?
I'm doing well. I've been just thinking about this all day, trying to figure out my thoughts, and it's been a sad one. The journey's over.
Sad. Well, over for a bit.
No more Bad Batch ever again.
Yeah,
it's going to be a few weeks before there's
joking,
anything new Star Wars coming out. I don't know
So
what I'm
yeah,
going to do
the
with
next big
myself.
Star Wars thing is what's Visions, right? That's like
Yeah.
And then I don't really know.
Isn't it Book of Boba Fett is after that?
Yeah, that will be what, like December, I think.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
November, December. No, I think the announcement for all the shows said it was in December for the Book of Boba Fett. So
yeah, I think it said next Christmas or something at the end, or
Yeah.
next December at the end of the show. I don't know when Cassian is coming out.
I don't think that's until like 2022.
2022, yeah. So we've got Visions, and then it's kind of quiet until December. But I mean, as Star Wars fans, especially from a TV standpoint, we've had a lot more quiet time than that.
Yeah.
Like the fact that we even have all of this stuff is great.
That's
The only kind of thing about Visions that's kind of unfortunate is, well, it's not really unfortunate, just for like the podcast style. It's coming out all at once, so.
Yeah, so we'll figure out how we want to cover that anyways, because like we started off doing weekly reactions for the Bad Batch, and we even did like a live watch along for the first episode of this one.
Yeah.
But we did kind of fall off that. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll definitely talk about it on the show, but we'll have to figure out what format works there.
Yeah, I'd say I could see us maybe doing something for like Mando, maybe, or like if like maybe Kenobi, where it's much shorter and I suspect more will happen each episode.
Yeah.
Like that's something that could maybe lend itself a little bit better to weekly episodes. But it was also just a lot of work for us, so.
Yeah. Trying to fit in all the books, especially when we were doing Young Jedi Knights at the same time, where there's like 14 books there, and we've really used that to fill some time.
Yeah. So speaking of, just as a reminder, next week we will be doing Into the Dark, right? That's the name.
Into the Shadows, I believe.
And actually,
No, it's Into the Dark. The previous one
okay.
was Out of the Shadows. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So they're not in the dark for very long because they're, well, whatever.
They're
I guess
coming
it's
out of the
different
shadows, but then
entities,
they're
right?
heading into the dark.
But Into the
So,
Dark is yeah, okay. I think it might be separate. Like I think it's maybe one thing is coming out of the shadows at the same time someone else is going into the dark.
all right. Well, we'll
But
figure out that and so much more next week with special guests from Kings and Generals.
mhm.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. So if you guys want to read along, you can, use your Audible credit or your library or buy the book, whatever you want. That'll be fun. But get cracking because it's a decent length book compared
Yeah.
to
It's like
Young
400
Jedi Knights.
pages.
Is it that long,
It's
really?
pretty long, but it's
God
relatively
damn.
small print, so it's not going to be crack out in an afternoon like we do with Young Jedi Knights.
Yeah, I think the audiobook was 12 hours, so that's
Mhm.
like pretty standard. Um, is there anything you want to talk about? Any other Star Wars news before we go into things?
No, not really. I don't think really much has come out worth talking about in the last week. Is there anything that
No.
jumps to mind for you?
No.
We complained
We're
about
getting
the hotel last time, so or the
Yeah, very
resort.
expensive hotel. I'm just looking at news. Um, we do have rumors, and I'll give a slight spoiler warning for the Ahsoka show, even though it is what it is. So if you don't want to know anything at all, even potential leaks, um,
Wait 30
you know,
seconds.
yes. So I'm just trying to find the leak here, but they are casting for Sabine Wren apparently.
Right.
Um, and Jordan Mason, who I know has said there's three front runners. So take from that what you will. I'm not going to go too far into that. I just don't think there's any point until we have
Yeah.
one. And I didn't know any of them either. So yeah, other than that, we've got the other thing I will mention is we've got more Star Wars Essential Legends collections books coming.
Yep.
Which is really exciting. And I think we'll be getting another unabridged audiobook for X-Wing. I think we'll be getting Wedge's Gamble. That's number 2, right? Wedge's Gamble?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So other than that, I think that's pretty much it. So with that being said, I don't think there's a whole lot else. So we go into our spoiler-filled discussion of the season finale. Then maybe we can talk about the season as a whole later on.
Yeah, sure. So, just first off, what are your overall takeaways from it? What did you think about how it ended off?
I liked it. Like I see people in chat, and I'm don't think that this is like an invalid point, but I see a lot of people complaining that like not enough happened, and I get the kind of want to say that when there's a finale with a lot of action, but I still feel like they managed to get a lot done. Like we got some movement on the plot between Crosshair and the rest of the group. We got a bit of a hook at the end there. I don't know. What about you?
So, I can see where that sentiment's coming from because there wasn't much that got resolved in it that I'd consider like a core plot line for the show. So,
Mhm.
like, if this had been an episode a few episodes ago, then that would have applied that wouldn't have been surprising or weird to me either. Because like the crosshair plot is very much not resolved. We see them dealing with each other directly, but the end result there is still he's going with the Empire, they're going off on their own, and they just didn't kill each other.
Mhm.
Uh, and like there's elements of him maybe thinking, have I made the right choice or the wrong choice? But it's still not wrapped that up. Like obviously it
Mhm.
wraps up the fate of Camino, but
Mhm.
Camino was also only such
It was
a
only important because of what was on it.
yeah, like it
Yeah.
wasn't Camino wasn't necessarily central plot line throughout the show. So the
Mhm.
fact that it's wrapped up is very important and it did play a significant role, but it isn't the kind of thing that you'd think uh, is kind of like the end of the plot line for the season.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I see that complaint. I've always assumed that this is going to be like a longer show. Uh, yeah, I get where that's coming from, but I don't know. I guess I just didn't have that feeling. I can't really justify it. I wasn't left wanting at the end of the episode, especially where like I felt the last like two arcs really like the big arcs kind of did a good job. But yeah.
Like, I guess the thing for me that like I still really enjoyed the episode and I really enjoyed the season overall a lot more than I
Mhm.
expected to. But I
Mhm.
think the thing for me is that it didn't necessarily resolve anything for them personally.
Mhm.
And especially when we've said kind of throughout the season, like it'd be nice to get some more development for some of the characters, specifically Tech and Echo. I
Mhm.
don't remember Tech saying anything all episode.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. You're
Echo
right.
did have a good line, like got some interaction with Crosshair in particular, of like
I think
just
that
saying,
was Tech who said that, wasn't it?
or sorry, yeah, Tech.
Yeah.
It's Echo that didn't say anything.
Yeah, I don't think
But
Echo did
yeah,
anything, but
sorry. The
yeah.
Tech line about Crosshair was really good, I thought, and like showing that they're interacting a bit rather than just have it always be Hunter versus Crosshair, like show
Mhm.
that they're all connected a bit. Because you get
Mhm.
a little bit between Wrecker and Crosshair before and in this episode. You
Rekka.
finally have Tech doing that, but like
Yeah.
Echo just he feels like a less useful droid. Almost like he doesn't.
It's
And
way less useful now that they've got what's his name? AZ.
yeah, and like Gonky has had more of a role in some of this stuff in the last few episodes than Echo has.
Yeah, Gongi's been MVP at times.
Yeah,
But yeah, no,
and
no
we should all expect that seeing a Gonk droid on screen, but like
Mhm. Yeah. Um, yeah, you're right. So what did you think about I've got on my stream now a picture of I thought they did really good with Crosshair over these past few episodes where like before this episode, I think you can like I kind of assumed based on some of his like facial like some of his faces he had made and like how he reacted people would talk to him. I'd kind of assumed that he was more close to defecting than he actually is, where he's not defecting at all. I do still think his path is kind of I think it's pretty clear which way he's going. And I mean it's Star Wars, so it's never usually too complicated, but yeah, I've enjoyed his role. I don't think I believe that he actually has a chip out though,
mm.
because people were pointing out that he did seem like he was having head pains. Like maybe, but I don't know. I just look at the scar and I just don't see it. I mean, it is kind of conveniently covered up by that blast he took from the Venator, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't understand why his ship would have been taken out, because I don't think the Empire would do that for
Hmm.
him. It doesn't seem like he'd do it himself or have the resources to do it himself if the Empire didn't want him to be able to do it. So I could see that, but like I feel like if a lot of times Star Wars does redemption just by like killing off the person, they do one good thing and then they're
Hmm.
dead. And they could have done it as in uh just the same way they've done so many other characters. Like he saves Omega at the end and then he just dies or something, and that's his big redemption. But Star Wars, I've never liked that Star Wars only does that as redemption. Like they do one nice thing, then they die, and there's no like examination of like how do you kind of make amends for things you've done before, and how do you
Yeah.
respond to the fact that some people are not going to accept you just saying, "Hey, I'm good now." Uh, and I don't expect that to be like super heavily examined in a show like The Bad Batch, uh, but it it seems like if they're having him not defect yet, uh, it'd probably have to happen or be a bigger focus in the earlier part of season two if it's going to happen, rather than just have him like team up with them at the end.
See, I could see them doing kind of like the across the stars, lovers in two different places thing, where where he's kind of struggling, but I don't know, like I do feel like maybe it just won't ever be in him to fully defect.
Yeah,
Um and like maybe like that will end up with him, going out in a some sort of just good way, some way that he's happy with. But I don't know. He the thing he seems to miss most is like his brothers more so than like I don't he doesn't seem to regret anything he's doing, you know
yeah.
what I mean? Other than like he's not with the boys. Like he doesn't seem to have anything against killing like civilians or anything like that. So yeah, I'm not sure where the like how this is going to be resolved, but it is kind of interesting.
And it does seem like it's kind of that way on the other side as well, where like the Bad Batch's main concern is just him being their brother rather than anything that he's done or is doing. Like they're
Hmm.
definitely willing to look past that.
Hmm.
And it's like
Yeah.
there's so much stuff about like, oh, maybe they'll help set up the rebellion, but I don't think that'll be the case. And I don't know that I'd want that to be the case. Like maybe they end up in some sort of mercenary position and help the rebellion in some way. But I don't think we need like every team of people we see uh in this era of Star Wars being part of the ultimate setting up of what we know as the Rebel Alliance. Maybe if they're involved in some other kind of specific anti-imperial action, fine, but like their thing doesn't seem to be shutting down the Empire, at least not yet.
No.
It's just how can we survive right now when we're being hunted, when like the galaxy has kind of thrown us aside.
I mean, there's been a couple times where like Hunter especially has done something to help like rebels. Like he gave away those I don't remember what it was. It was like, oh, it was the super computer, um or the super battle, or the, what's it called? The tactical battle droid.
Mm.
He gave that brain to the Martez sisters. Um he doesn't charge I forget who it was. There's someone who he doesn't charge. Like he does done a few little things. I agree that he's probably not going to be, forming the alliance, but I think he might be kind of like rebel adjacent. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
like helping them out, but I don't want their main story to just be earlier Rebels Part 2, I guess is
No, I
the.
agree. I
Because
agree.
like a lot of it is them trying to find a purpose for themselves, and that's kind of what Crosshair's doing on the other side. Or like
Hmm.
when Crosshair's talking about the reasons he's staying with the Empire, it's not so much that he necessarily believes they're doing the right thing. He's okay with doing whatever he's told to do, but there's a lot of survivalist elements to it,
He
and
kind
he
of seems like
doesn't.
he wants a spot.
Yeah, and like they're. He's trying to like pay them back for the opportunities he's given, and assuming he's going to be given more opportunities when like everything
Hmm.
that we've seen so far has been like, no, actually, as soon as they're done with you, you're going to get tossed aside too.
Yeah. No, I think that that's mostly right. I mean, we haven't really seen, and maybe we will get the kind of more look into his ethics and stuff, but I mean, I really don't know because yeah, it seems like you're right. He does seem to be self-interested, and and yeah, like I kind of mentioned earlier, his big regret is, whenever he has those like emotional face shots, it's usually because he's has to go hunt down his old squad, or he's annoyed that he got left or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Well, like he clearly has some pretty strong abandonment issues, and like
Hmm.
he's he's still dealing with the fact that like the Bad Batch didn't stick with him, even though
Yeah.
like both of the like each side of it sees it as like you made your choice, which I think gets said 30 times in the episode or throughout the
Yeah.
season between him and
And I said
Hunter.
on last episode too. I like
Yeah,
that where he's like, you didn't give me a choice. I thought that was one of my favorite bits of the
yeah.
season.
But like he even says to Hunter, like, since when do you care about the regs? And
Hmm.
like the implication is like we've only ever had each other,
Like
and
we've been
right
shit talking
now,
these guys forever.
yeah, and like the Empire, maybe he doesn't have any real love for it, but it's what's keeping him with something to do right now. It's what's providing for him right now, and that's
Hmm.
what he's going to be on board with. And
Hmm.
whether he feels any particular positive or negative way about the horrible shit they're making him do is less of a concern for him because he's not concerned about other people, as
Hmm.
other people have not been concerned about him.
Yeah, I see a lot of people in the chat talking about Callus from Rebels, and he's like a good example of someone who's not Callus. Callus isn't the character, not like Callus, Callous, but like
Yes.
because Callus's thing is like he ends up kind of regretting like who he's become and like what the Empire has made him do.
Yeah.
Where yeah, we haven't seen that so far. But yeah, I guess we didn't see that with Callus, for a while either. But I don't think he'll go in that direction. I think Crosshair will probably end up dead by the time the series over, because I think most of the clones will, and I don't think most of them are gonna have a happy ending. Like we all know, and like not just like the famous clones, but like there's no clones by the time of the original trilogy.
Yeah.
So
Like
like they went somewhere, and I
I
don't think it was somewhere good.
yeah, like I don't think Callus is the only one who we see deal with the consequences of leaving that. We don't really see him deal with many of the consequences directly. We see him deal with the one particular team who kind of
Erica is a good is a
Yeah,
good
like I was gonna
example.
say, Alphabet Squadron as a whole is that story, and that's where we've seen it
Mhm.
best. But like
Yeah.
Kane or Callus, he gets like kind of bonked on the nose for like, hey, you did some bad stuff, but then him and Zeb become friends, and
Lovers,
everyone
let's be
just,
honest.
well, yeah, but like, yeah, nothing. I think really Victory's Price is probably going to be the main, or really throughout Alphabet Squadron is going to be like probably the best exploration of that we're going to see in Star Wars. I don't have many hopes for something surpassing that,
Yeah, no, I don't think
but
so. They spent 3 books basically
yeah,
focused on that. I don't know. I don't even know if I'd want something else to cover it that deeply again with like how good of a job it did. But yeah,
with
so that's I think we covered that point pretty comprehensively. Do you want to talk about the I see a lot of chat about this in the comments. So do you want to break down the last scene because that was kind of the other big moment this episode
uh
was.
yeah, sorry, just before we get to that, like what you were saying there was is a pretty dark way for the show to go. But
Oh yeah,
like I
sorry.
was thinking during the episode though, is there anything that has caused like the watching Crosshair and Omega underwater, that
Hmm.
felt like one of the most like desperate dark scenes in anything visually we've seen with Star Wars, at least any of the
Mm,
shows or movies. Is there anything that
yeah.
kind of like comes close to that for you? Because I was even thinking like, does
You
Rogue
mean like
One
when
kind
they
of
were
have it?
almost drown like when they're almost
Yeah.
drowning?
Like maybe that's just how I feel about drowning
Mm.
coming through, but like I don't remember feeling that kind of sense of
No,
existential
yeah.
dread,
There was I was thinking that too
especially with a
when
kid.
she's yeah, no, you're right. I was thinking that too when like during the scene when she's like in the cave or in the thing that's falling. It reminded me of a
Hmm.
movie I watched called 43 Meters Down or something. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to think of any other really dark moments on screen that come close to that.
Yeah, like
I mean,
even
like there are
knowing that they're
violent
gonna get
moments,
out.
but
Yeah.
yeah, there are violent moments, but that was yeah, that was definitely psychological.
Mhm.
Um,
Like even the closest, like it's more of a force of nature than like good versus evil
mhm.
that you typically see in Star Wars. So, like the closest thing I can almost think of would be like the Vader hallway scene in Rogue One, where he's just mowing people down and he's almost like a force of nature. But like even
I
knowing
think
they were
maybe when
gonna get
Anakin
out,
finds his
but
mother, maybe
yeah.
that's kind of different. But I'm just trying to think of anything else. But yeah, no, it is very very freaky. Part of that too is like how good the animation is.
Hmm.
Um, where we've talked about this kind of uh throughout our coverage of this show, and the water animation is a big thing. They talked about this a little bit during the Mandalorian because they had that one scene on the water planet during the episode The Heiress.
Kamino.
No, it was like Mon Calamari Colony X, but well, I forget. You know that YouTube channel that breaks down all the special effects and stuff. Like they kind of
Right.
covered how, like, there's the scene where his ship is in the water, it gets pulled out, and like the water is kind of like running out from like every little hole and rivet and stuff. And it's like there's not many companies other than ILM that can do
Yeah.
that. And so this episode showed that off. I think like the physics of the actual thing, like the like Tapoka City or whatever it's called, falling into the water was amazing. You got like the fire and the debris. It's just like there's I don't think there's any other animated TV show that does it nearly as good.
Yeah. And like that's a big part of what like Disney bought when they bought
Oh yeah,
Lucasfilm
for
is
sure.
ILM and all the
Mhm.
special effects, the volume, like the technical side of everything they do is always really impressive and kind of sets up the rest of the industry, even for people who don't really pay attention to Star Wars for Star Wars. Like that's
Mhm.
always such a huge part of what George was trying to do and what still happens with Star Wars.
Yeah, like they're even using the volume now for like Thor. I saw uh Taika is using it for Thor for the new Thor movie. And then of
Mhm.
course he'll be using it for like his Star Wars movie,
Yeah.
whatever that ends up being. So
Yeah. We didn't talk about that at
yeah.
the start, but like Taika's movie is something like you don't hear too much about, but he's apparently done with the
Hmm.
story. So production on that's moving forward and he's focusing on it more now. So I've been really excited for that. I don't want to divert too much
Yeah,
from Bad Batch, but I
he'll
love
probably be the
Taika, so
2025 movie because we know that there's movies coming out in 2023, and we know that one specifically is going to be Rogue Squadron, which is the thing that I'm most excited for. Then we have probably his based on timeline in 2025, and then we have another in 2027. Um, the difference is, because for a while there was a movie every year, and I liked that, but I don't know. I honestly think that I prefer if it's got to be one or the other. I like having so many shows because it's like I think people get a lot less tired of shows. Um, you can skip an episode, and it's like it's not a big. I feel like whenever a Star Wars movie comes out, there's so much like pressure for it to do so well
Hmm.
immediately in box office. When like I don't think that same pressure is there for the Bad Batch because you know that like yeah we're all watching it now, but eventually it's just gonna be like people are gonna be picking it up. Just like a bunch of my friends haven't watched Clone Wars, they probably will eventually. A bunch of my friends haven't even watched Mandalorian yet, but
Hmm.
like they will at some point. So I think it's good.
Yeah, like the other thing with that is like kind of connected to it is that when a movie comes out, not just the pressure for it to be good, it's like it has to appeal to everyone.
Mhm.
Where like when they announced so many shows, there was more of an understanding of like even my own reaction was I'm not as excited for Bad Batch as much as I have enjoyed it now that it's out,
Mhm.
but they're willing to explore more genres with that, and I think people are
Mhm.
more okay with the show being more specifically tailored as opposed to a movie.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I do think movies still have something special because, like, you usually can't get the same scale that a movie has
yeah,
with a show. You just can't, and that's why I'm happy that there's both. So I definitely prefer. Uh, I personally could do a movie every year and shows running all the time. I don't know if that's enough for if the rest of the fan base could support that, but yeah.
yeah, like I'm not sure what the sweet spot is for
Mhm.
having enough content without oversaturating it. I think the shows we might start feeling a little bit oversaturated next year because there's what like four of them coming out.
There'll
So
be a show on it all the time.
yeah, and
Like,
like
there will always be one running pretty much.
that'll be great for us at least at first, but I don't want it to be too overdone. But then you look
Yeah.
at what the primary method of ingesting Star Wars was in the 90s with the novels, and it was, I think, every other weekend there was a
Yeah.
Bantam book coming out. So,
I also, like I rip on Marvel because I'm not a huge Marvel guy. I'm not saying Star Wars can support Marvel level of because with Marvel, they do what, like, 5 movies a year? Like, on a regular year or 3 movies a year maybe, and then shows. I just feel like if people aren't burnt out from that much Marvel, I think Star Wars can probably, maybe not reach that level of movies, but I do feel like, you know
maybe the more the movies start like branching out to different stuff, because like even though Rogue One and Solo were technically not main saga movies, like
Mhm.
Solo is about Han Solo, Rogue One is about the Death Star, so it's like direct prequels to Episode 4 with major characters. Whereas with the Marvel stuff, I think there's more of a like, oh, I like the Iron Man movies, I don't watch the Captain America movies as much or something
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
their big
So
benefit. They've got all these mini universes to draw from,
yeah,
which Star Wars doesn't quite, but yeah.
even though Captain
Um,
America ended up being like Winter Soldier was Avengers 2.
yeah, they kind of trick you
Yeah.
with that, don't they?
Yeah. Winter Soldier,
Yeah.
well, not so much Winter Soldier, but like Civil War.
Mhm. Yeah, that one shouldn't have been an Avengers movie, I don't think. That one didn't feel like an Avengers movie to me.
Well, it wasn't.
It wasn't Avengers was oh, it was Captain
It was
America
Captain
Civil War.
America Civil War, which just had all the Avengers in it.
Yeah, so, like, I don't feel like that's a Captain America movie either. I don't
Yeah.
know, but yeah. For me, like, a big thing will be if they can keep up the content or the quality of the content. Like, I thought The Bad Batch was great. I never felt like it was being rushed. Obviously, The Mandalorian doesn't feel like it's being rushed. People have problems with it, but I don't think people are calling it a cash grab. I've never heard that called.
No.
I've never heard that used. And same thing for the Marvel shows, really. I still haven't watched the Loki one,
Mhm.
but I actually quite enjoyed Falcon and Winter Soldier. So yeah.
I haven't watched either of those yet, but I did enjoy WandaVision. I really wasn't thinking I'd watch any of the shows, but
Mhm.
especially WandaVision when it was announced, I thought it was kind of a weird premise, but I really liked it. So
Yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
liked it a lot more than you did, though.
Yeah, I was kind of for me, yeah, I wanted them to go a bit more experimental, but maybe I hear Loki's kind of like that, but I never have any interest in like what's the show called, like Agents of Shield or like
Yeah.
Green Arrow or any of those other like um
Is
hero
Green Arrow
superhero shows.
DC? I
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Anyways, Bad Batch. The last scene you wanted to talk about,
Did you
where
get Mount Tantiss when you saw it? That's what I recorded my reaction, and that's the first thing I said. I was like, "That looks like Mount Tantiss." It doesn't
yeah,
look like Mount Tantiss, but
it looks like it probably was designed by someone who at least read the Thrawn trilogy.
yeah,
But yeah, I don't think it'll be Mount Tantiss. Maybe someone will
no,
get that name in, but
I think they're gonna do it. I do.
really, okay.
Yeah.
I kind of hope they do, but I don't know.
If you would have asked me like a year ago or a year and a half ago, I would have said no. But I think that Disney realized that while the sequel trilogy sold well and financially was a success, I do think that they realized that there was a portion of Star Wars fans who were a little bit unhappy, and I do think they are going for something a little bit like that's proven. Um, and I think that I think they're going to try to put their own spin on the Thrawn trilogy as much as they can.
Mhm.
So I think it's really setting that all up. Like I could see the cloning, like that being an aspect of because like we know that so what I kind of feel like is I'll just give my theory, then I'll let you go. Um, my theory is that Palpatine is I mean, I think this is not just mine. This is most theory. Palpatine is getting Nala Se and other probably other Kaminoans to help with cloning projects so he can, achieve eternal life in some form.
Yeah.
My theory, however, when it and like I think that's why those guys are there. That's what that patch means. That's what the uniform means. However, when it comes to the Mandalorian and Doctor Pershing, I think he was one of those guys, but I don't think that's why he's using that technology. So, like, when it comes to Grogu, um, or like the experiments that like they're trying to perform on him in the Mandalorian, I don't think that's to forward that project. I think that's basically Moff Gideon getting his hands on some technology and trying to use it to further himself. Um,
Mhm.
and I could Thrawn trilogy kind of because like for those who haven't read the Thrawn trilogy, the books for one, listen to our podcast on them and read along. But the books sort of go, especially the first two, they have Thrawn kind of collecting all these little pieces to his plan. And I can definitely see that place being one of those pieces, just like it was in the books.
Yeah,
Because
like
yeah, you should explain what Mount Tantiss is too, because there's probably a bunch of people who don't know what that is.
yeah, so like Mount Tantiss is an old Imperial storehouse with there's a bunch of Sparty cloning cylinders in there, which in the Thrawn trilogy, Thrawn uses to train his or to create his own clone army.
Mhm.
And so there's other stuff like I think the cloaking device was in there. So it's basically a
Yeah.
big lost Imperial storehouse on the planet Wayland. And so like that's
Hmm.
definitely kind of what this is.
Hmm.
But it's just the specific name Mount Tantiss that I'm not sure about and if this is going to be
Yeah.
Wayland, but it looks exactly like Wayland would have. It's just there's the others.
I could imagine Luke and Mara on their 100-kilometer trek
Yeah.
through the woods.
'Cause
But
there's
you're right.
even
There's mountains, right?
yeah, there's multiple installations in it, so
Mhm.
we'll see if they give any particular importance to one or the other. If it's like one mountain range, and it's still Mount Tantiss. But if you even look
Mhm.
at the uh, kind of original designs of Mount Tantiss, it's the same general idea of like towards the top of the mountain, you have the entrance coming in, which they even
Yeah.
recreated in Empire at War when they made the Wayland
It's got
map.
a big like hole down the middle, doesn't it? With
Yeah.
like, yeah.
So like I definitely think it's meant to serve the same purpose, and I do think that what they're doing with Thrawn kind of does follow that. It just I think like Thrawn stuff is going to be tied a little bit more into Palpatine's goals rather than just being his own and taking the Empire's resources and using that. Maybe there will be more elements of it, but it seems like this is now being built in as more of a direct thing that Palpatine was always working on, and that someone like Thrawn would have been brought into. Uh,
Hmm. I
so
just feel like at some point Palpatine would have moved that stuff to Exegol, and I feel like
yeah.
that would have happened by the time. So like, yeah, I don't think, I don't think that Thrawn will be doing Palpatine's bidding.
Not that
Um,
he's doing Palpatine's bidding, but just like rather than it being Thrawn is collecting all these resources to do
mhm,
something that is not necessarily originally intended for it. I think there will be a bit more of a connection between what Thrawn's doing with the Empire and Palpatine still existing out on Exegol, like rotting
mhm,
away. But
mhm.
I do think there will
Yeah,
be
I can
some
see that too.
connection there.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Um, what was I gonna say? I gotta say though, the Bad Batch has been making some really cool Imperial installations, and it really makes me wish there was like a new Jedi Knight game where we could break into those and like
Hmm.
steal some Stigium crystals or something.
Well, maybe
Because
in a
like
couple
that
of
was a
years we'll
really
have a Star Wars
it-
game.
yeah, because like the mountain itself is a really cool design as well. Because it's like it almost reminds me of early concept art they did for Scarif, where like it was ridiculous, but they had the Death Star being built inside a planet. It's just like how they in this it looks like they've almost like propped the planet up and built the thing in there, or they've cut away a part of the planet, and it's just like almost like this mega engineering project. It's very cool. Obviously, something very important is going on there.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's obviously no mistake too.
it's
Um,
pronounced Nalase.
can you shut the fuck up, Corey?
No,
It's no mistake that they showed that character with the thing on her
yeah,
chest. So
yeah, because that was
it's
something that people were kind of theorizing from like the first episode of The Mandalorian, I
mhm.
think, of like
Yeah,
what's the connection of Pershing to the Kaminoans, and now
yeah,
it's cool to see that transfer into the Bad Batch as well.
yeah. There were a few other things I noticed. I'm just kind of rewatching some of it on my monitor here. For one, you see it's only clone commandos. I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
there. I was looking for Delta Squad. I didn't see them, but who knows? But so there's a more boring, in my opinion, option as well, where this is just some sort of base for the new Project War Mantle. Um, and it's just like a big training facility, and maybe they're trying to grow their own clones as well. I don't think that's the case, but it's definitely possible, I think.
yeah. One thing that I haven't liked in the last few episodes is the idea that the stormtroopers are TK troopers, and that the
Hmm.
TK designation is like a universal stormtrooper designator.
Instead of
Uh,
just that TK421.
yeah, so just like some subset of them that just happen to have that designator. But like in the Clone Wars, they also had CT as like all the stormtroopers have that designation, and who knows what happens when uh
Yeah.
you have so many with the multiple or with the same
I wonder
designation.
about
But there's also
R2D2 sometimes as well.
yeah, but that's
Like,
more like specific droid model. So rather
yeah.
than like an individual,
Hmm.
yeah, even though they all seem to be kind of identical when they're
Yeah.
just thrown in whatever stuff.
And you never meet another R2D2.
Yeah, because Pablo Hidalgo actually was asked about this on Twitter, with the meanings of the of like TK, FN, and all that stuff, and uh, I think it part of it with like FN was that it will like Finn's designator that some people originally thought
Yeah.
like, oh, is that everyone who was on the finalizer? But then there's
Oh yeah, that would have made
also
sense.
other clone or other stormtroopers that are explicitly mentioned as being FN something on Starkiller Base, so that doesn't really fit. But
Hmm.
like, and ultimately, it's just all nonsense terms, is what he essentially said. So trying to like
Yeah.
make backport TK as the universal designator for stormtroopers, we know that wasn't the case. Is
I
kind
think
of
you could
weird.
still I think you'd write those that off as two different
Yeah,
things still if you needed to as well. Like
yeah.
the TK could stand for like
Tarkin's
I don't
original
know.
ones, and that's why they're on the Death Star or something.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah. Anything else you want to mention about Mount Tantiss?
Just really forcing that label on, aren't we?
I was right about Luke in The Mandalorian.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't. Who did who did me and Charlie say? Did Charlie say Kyle Katarn?
I think he said Cal Kestis, or did you say Cal
I think
Kestis?
I no, maybe I said Ezra and he said Cal because that was the only Jedi that
I could totally see him saying Kyle Katarn though.
I well, it was either like he just learned about Kyle Katarn and wanted to be Kyle Katarn, or it was that like Cal was the only Jedi he knew because of Fallen Order, so he
You
assumed it
mean
would be that.
Cal Kestis?
right? Hi,
Yeah,
Ketis.
I wish I could learn about Kyle Katarn for the first time again to experience that. Just that giant meaty hand coming down. Hey, you need some help getting up?
What if you learned about Kyle Katarn for the first time by reading Legacy of the Force or Dark Nest?
Ooh, not great.
What an underwhelming story.
I'm like, where's the dude during the Vong War? Come on, man. We needed you.
He was off
But yeah,
doing top secret things.
yeah. Top secret.
Yeah, I got nothing else on Nala Se's adventures at Mount Tantiss. Like, it seems like it'll factor pretty heavily into season 2. But like, do you think that part of season 2 might be a rescue attempt on Nala Se? Because it seems like Omega is
Mm,
relatively attached to her.
I hadn't considered that until you said it. I do think it's possible, but I don't think so. Yeah, I think it's possible, but I don't think the Bad Batch will try to rescue her. I don't even think they'll find out her fate. I think that might just be a setup for future shows, but I can also see her somehow getting a message off and being like, "Please
Mhm.
help me." So,
Yeah, because like the main reason I could see them not doing that would just be like, if Nala Se gets out, then like that information gets out too on what the Empire's doing, and it seems like no
Mhm.
one really knows about that until much later.
Yeah,
So
that's definitely a problem as well.
she just forgets all of it, or Bad Batch never actually bothers telling uh Rafa and Trace about it to tell Bale.
Um, did is this show connecting more to the wider universe than you expected?
I don't. I know that's something that comes up a bit, but I don't think it actually it's showing some of the broader trends of the galaxy, and it's showing some pretty important stuff like destroying
Hmm.
Camino and hinting at what's going on with the Empire. But as far as what the Bad Batch themselves are doing, I really don't think it is, and I think that's what's important is that
Hmm.
it's able to show how much is going on in the galaxy without making it the most important thing in the world every time Hunter goes out for groceries.
Yeah, it's like they're on Ryloth, but like they're not causing the revolution or anything. Although
Yeah.
in that case they do kind of get involved. But like I agree with what you're saying. It's like at this point the Empire is like an unstoppable force, and like they can't they're not gonna be able to do anything about it. Like
Yeah.
they're just living it right now, which I kind of enjoy.
Yeah, they haven't really stopped the Empire from doing anything all season, really.
Yeah, exactly. Where in Rebels, it's like you feel like although their struggle is still, it's not like as to the scale of the original trilogy. You still do feel like they're a very big part of history.
Yeah, because they are the ones who are setting up the Rebel Alliance almost directly. They're the
Yeah.
new Star Killer, but
Hmm.
like, yeah, they really everything the Bad Batch does that relates to the Empire is less they're stopping the Empire from doing something, and more they've made their choice on how they're not going to be part of that system, which I
Yeah.
think is powerful in its own way, but it's not the Empire stopping saving Lothal from Grand Admiral Thrawn. Maybe we'll get into a bit more of that in the next season, but we're so early that they can't really do anything permanent to take
Hmm.
away the Empire's control.
Hmm. How many seasons do you think the show will have?
3.
3.
3.
Okay. I was gonna ask you over under on 4. So there we go. I
What's your
think.
over under on 3.5?
Mm, I think it'll be 4 seasons, but I wouldn't be surprised for it to be 2. I wouldn't be surprised for it to be 3. I don't know.
The hotel or the lawn care?
Hmm.
The hotel or the lawn care service? Or whatever it was.
What? Oh,
4
did I? Oh
seasons.
yeah, 4 seasons. I forgot about that. Yeah, the lawn care service with with the big event at it. Yeah.
Like, I'm really only saying it because like Netflix seems to have hit on the whole 3 seasons is pretty
That's when
optimal, and
interest
with
starts to drop.
yeah,
Yeah.
so when there's so many other stories they could tell, and like Rebels only went for what, 4 itself.
4. Yeah.
Clone Wars ended up going for 7, but
Yeah. That was my thing too, where it's like once you get past 2 or 3 seasons, that you start to get in a time where there'll be a lot of shows. But
mhm.
I don't know. I do also feel like it's good for them to have one flagship animated show. So
Well, do you think they'd be, because that'd be 3 years from now? Was the show announcements were everything up till 2025? Was
I
it,
don't think so. I don't
or
think
was
that
there
I
a
don't
set?
think they said everything. I think they really just laid out all the shows for the next 2 years.
Yeah, because like I could
Um,
see them maybe seeing the success of Bad Batch and be like, oh, we want more of that specifically. But I could
mhm,
also see them doing these 3 seasons and somewhere within the next year starting production on another show to come out the year after Bad Batch season 3 ends, because that'd be
mhm,
reasonable turnover. That'd give them a good indication, like, yes, this animation's working. People want more of it, without
mhm.
trying to like,
Cram it
uh,
all into one
yeah,
era.
and
Yeah.
without trying to like keep finding things for the Bad Batch to do and finding new scenes where Omega can say tick.
Rekka. Yeah. No, okay. I think that's a good argument. Do you want to give kind of your anything about else about this episode you want to talk about specifically? Blue Sky and
Uh,
Camino?
I
It's
think.
like Total Recall. Blue Sky on Mars.
Well, I can't totally recall anything else that I really want to talk about from it. I think we hit on all the major points. Anything you sticking out
I
to
like
you?
the sea. I like the sea monster. I hope when they do like the episode breakdowns, which they do a few days after the episode comes out. I think they do it Tuesday. I hope we get a look at the 3D model for the sea
Hmm.
monster.
I always loved the fauna, so
Yeah.
cool.
Oh yeah, me too. But yeah, I mean, I think we kind of gave our general impressions on the show. Is there anything you want to say that we didn't mention already?
Yeah, I guess just Rip Camino.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's every city. They did mention taking out every city, right? Like the Bad Batch was
Oh,
focused
did
on
they?
Tapioca City, but I think there was a line of like every city on Camino has been taken out,
Was that in
right?
this episode?
I'm not sure when it was
Was it
because
the
I did
hesitant
watch
clone who
part of
said
it.
that?
So
I did like how that clone was clearly not super impressed with
yeah,
what just happened. He's like, well,
that was an epic.
people are saying in the chat they did say that. Okay, I didn't
Okay,
even hear
cool.
that. So,
Like part of my thing with it would have been like, oh, are they acting like Tapioca City was the only city on Camino? Because that
mm-hmm,
wouldn't have been very sweet. That I was just calling it Tapioca City to make that joke. So if we
mm-hmm,
could all just appreciate that for a second.
yeah,
That's
yeah, I do like that they haven't. Because I don't know if another city's been like confirmed to exist in canon, but I'm glad they didn't kind of minimize Camino to that one city because
I
that would have been kind of lame.
think we do have some emails to answer. I tried
Okay.
looking for any reviews that we've got since the last time, but
Yeah, I
I don't
didn't
know
see
which ones
any.
you usually look at. I didn't find any, so
I checked yesterday. I'll check again today.
but I'll pull
You want to
up
read it?
the emails while you do that. And all right, our first question comes from Matrix54, who is asking two questions. The first is essentially, what do we think about the possibility for a Star Wars and Marvel crossover, since we've
It's not
talked
gonna
about a
happen.
lot of that today? Yeah, I don't think so
Never,
either.
never gonna happen.
Maybe once Marvel or once Disney decides to make a like Smash Brothers style game that'll have a bunch of Star Wars and Marvel characters in it, but I think that's the real big shot for it.
We could see like one of those like funny joke comics, where, like Han
Yeah.
going to Earth or like whatever, where it's like drawn in a funny style so nobody thinks it's canon. But yeah, that's the most I can see.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get any major serious production on that. There'd have to be
Hmm.
something cheap if it does happen.
Yeah.
Matrix's second question is, if you had the option to take out any Star Wars character to a bar, Legends, or Canon, and got so drunk that you sang the karaoke for Sweet Caroline, who would it be?
I'm just say Admiral Akbar because I know like he'd stink at singing and I'd look like a just a legend next to him.
Yeah, I was going to say
Um,
Dex, but I think I like your answer more.
other than that, uh, I don't know. It's a good question. Any others that come to mind for you? Dex is a good one. Uh,
I don't know. I'm trying to think of like who would be fun to drink with from Star
Talon Card, I
Wars,
think, would be
but
fun to drink with, but you might like end up losing your wallet or something.
yeah, it's too much.
Yeah.
Definitely
Yeah.
not Rosh Pennon.
No. Fuck Rosh. Good question. I
Raltheron.
like.
Raltheron. I'm going in on Raltheron. Raltheron or Dex. But yeah, thank you,
Go with
Matrix.
Geth Zarian.
Oof. It's she's on house arrest on Dathomir. So that's gonna be hard.
Yeah.
All right. Our next question here comes from Christopher, who asks, no matter how divided the Star Wars fandom may be, one thing they will always agree on is their hatred of Jar Jar Binks. Having grown up with the Phantom Menace, I don't understand the intensity of the hatred, as he's always been a pretty meh character with a few high points. What's your opinion on Jar Jar and his role in the prequels?
He's annoying. He's for kids, but even as a kid, I remember thinking Jar Jar is annoying.
I love
I
Ahmed
think,
Best, but I agree with all of that.
yeah, yeah. It sucks what happened to Ahmed Best. It was really sad, like all the trauma and like just bad shit he had to go through because people didn't like the movie character he liked. But Jar Jar's really annoying. And you know what? On the whole Sith Jar Jar thing, I do think it's possible that it was that George did have some plans for him. I'm not sure. Um, Sith Lord, I don't quite know that, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the whole like hapless, good-natured political stooge was as far as that was gonna go, but
Yeah.
like I've kind of softened on him over time, but he's still an annoying character.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
right, our last email for the night comes from Joel, who asks, "Do you think that the final scene was Mount Tantiss, or that we may see the Mandoverse play out?" But yeah, I think we talked about all that already. So
I say
sorry,
yes, he
Joel,
says
but
no.
no, that's not what I said.
You said it'll, well, I just mean name.
I think you've brought me around on it. I think you've convinced me.
Okay.
I'm on
Yeah.
board. I'm signing off on
Like
Mount Tantiss.
if you're gonna have it be Mount Tantiss and function, you might as well throw the fans a bone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just checking. I think I read this review before. Let me just pull it up.
Is it the one about hairy Wookiees?
No, Stringy Whiskers.
Okay. I that doesn't sound familiar.
Consider me bristled. This podcast really bristles my stringy whiskers the right way, if you know what I mean. Listening to Dog Man and fake Star Wars Explained unload an absolute dump truck of lore is the highlight of my week.
Christ.
It is such a relief that the only Star Wars podcast out there is actually decent.
We should put that as any promotional material we do. We should just put actually decent in quotes.
Here's a nice one from J.S. Thomas, which I don't think I've read. He says, if you like Star Wars or reading, this podcast is for you. Heck, if you don't like either of those things, then this podcast is for you. I can't remember how long it's been since I actually laughed out loud at a podcast. The commentary is great. The reviews are accurate, as any opening can be. And hearing about the escapades of Incel Luke and Thirsty Boy Corrin has been an absolute blast. In all seriousness, this podcast is excellent. There were quite a few books from Legends I hadn't gotten around to reading, and after starting to listen to this podcast, I've been slowly accumulating those books I was missing. All in all, a 10 out of 5
Wow.
rating. Keep up the awesome work. I'm looking forward to the future episodes. Thank you very much, JS Thomas 901 and Jeremy of M. It was JS with the longer one and Jeremy who was bristled. Really appreciate those. I'm just checking, for if there's any others. But yeah, it's really those are some really nice reviews, guys.
All right. I'm going to check my Twitter DMs to make sure I said the right book that we're doing next week. Because
Okay.
I think it's the Claudia Gray one. But I just need to be sure. But yeah, so Into the Dark. It is Into the Dark. We're confirming that now. Next week is Into the Dark. Is there anything else you want to talk about before I prematurely go into the outro points?
No, I think kind of a short one, but no, I think that's pretty much all I had. Fun episode. I'm looking forward to getting back to a book next week. And what is it after Into the Dark? I think is
Yes.
that back to Young Jedi Knights, then Black Fleet, I guess? That'll be
Yeah.
our next 4 episodes.
Yeah, I think we're doing Into the Dark next week by Claudia Gray. Then we're going to do the next book of Young Jedi Knights, which is no, not
Second
Delusion of
last?
Grandeur.
It's isn't it the one where they go underwater?
Crisis at Crystal Reef. I think it might
Yes.
be Crisis at Crystal Reef. Let's see. So we just did Emperor's Plague. Nope, it's Return to Ord Mantell next.
Okay.
Who was on the cover of that? Is that Tenel Ka on the cover of Return to Ord Mantell? Okay, interesting. So we'll do Return to Ord Mantell the week after Into the Dark. Then we'll be doing
Oh yeah, only one arm. Definitely Tenelka.
Shield of Lies is the second one. Tyrant's Test is the third. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So Shield of Lies
Yep.
will be after that. And then we'll probably we'll do the second last book of Young Jedi Knights the week after.
Yep.
Trouble on Cloud City. Then it's just Crisis at Crystal Reef left. And then that's it. Do we combine any of the Young Jedi Knights ones? Or do we just do them
No,
on their
I
own?
want to do them on their own for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not trying to shorten my time with
Well, we could
Young
do a
Jedi Knights.
comic. We could move into a comic series after we're done with Young Jedi Knights as well. There's a lot of comics.
Yeah. No, let's not combine any. Let's
Okay.
just keep it as is. Yeah. All right. Thanks everyone for watching. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to both the YouTube channels. If you are not listening on YouTube, or if you want to listen to the podcast instead of watching us, then you can look up TapCaf Transmissions. That's TAPCAF Transmissions. All your favorite podcast places. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty great.
Send us an email, question, thought. Everyone sends us question. No one sends us thoughts. Like, I gotta think when you send me a question. Send me a thought that I can just read.
Yeah, that's
That's
tapcaptransmissions at
tapcap@gmail.
gmail.com.
And if you want to leave a comment that I will read for the next episode, try to work Nate Dogg, the the beloved rapper, into the comments somehow. Nate Dogg. Rest his soul.
All right. That's
All
going to
right.
do it.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.